Welcome to the Own It Sister podcast with the amazing life coach, Sarah Oxendine.
Aloha, everybody. How are you? Welcome to the Own It Sister podcast, episode number 9. We are talking about blame. Holy smokes, everyone. This is such a great topic because probably you've blamed somebody today. And if you haven't blamed someone today, for sure you've blamed someone within the last week, for sure. Most of you. Really, as humans, we blame people. It just kind of comes with the territory of being human. And a lot of times our blame is super, super sneaky. And we don't even realize that we're blaming. And so in this case, what's so important is that, one, just to bring attention to where are you blaming in your life? And I'm going to share the story that Brene Brown gave. It was her own personal story, but it was such a really great example of how far-fetched our blaming can get. So she got up in the morning, all dressed for the day. She goes downstairs, makes herself a cup of coffee, fills it up. It was a very full cup of coffee. She picks it up, drops it everywhere, broke into a million pieces and got all over her. Okay. And her first words out of her mouth were, "Dang you, Steve." She was mad. Dang you, Steve. That's her husband. And here's the reason why she, in her brain in that moment, decided that this was her husband's fault that she dropped her coffee. You guys, this is incredible. We've all done this. I have for sure done this. The night before, her husband had gone to play water polo. And she had said, "Hey, can you please be home by 10 o'clock? Because I have to work tomorrow. And I just can never fall asleep before you get home. And so if you could please be home by 10 so I can get the rest that I need to have a successful day at work tomorrow." He's like, "Okay, yeah, totally." He doesn't come home until 10:30. So in her brain, she had decided that her husband hadn't come home at the time that we had discussed. So therefore, he is the reason that I'm extra tired this morning and I dropped this cup of coffee. And it's really funny. So even as she's cleaning up the mess, he happens to call her and she answers the phone. She's like, "Hey," of course, super annoyed. And he could hear the annoyance on the phone. He's like, "Hey, what's up, babe? How are you? What are you doing?" And she's like, "Well," and she starts to go and he just hung up the phone. He was like, whoa. And I just love that she shared this experience because where in our lives are we sneakily blaming people? And it can be anybody. It could be blaming the person who cut you off while you're driving for why the rest of your day turned out to be a terrible day. It could be, here's some of mine. You guys, this is really funny. And so these are some things that I've had to work on for myself. Blaming my children for why I'm late. You guys, I did this for years. Literally up until the last 3 years. Only in the last 3, and my oldest is 18. That is 15 years of blaming my children for why I'm late. And I have been a gnarly late freight. I'm way better now. But, and it would always be my kid's fault. It's not my kid's fault I'm late. It's my fault I'm late. But I would blame them like nobody's business. Not acceptable. Not acceptable at all on my part. Not my children's fault. I have to prepare the time for my children to take extra time. I remember when I had babies, right? And you're about ready to walk out the door, blow out diaper, and you're like, and now you're late. Well, at least that was for me. So then I'd be late. But why didn't I prepare enough time to have a blowout diaper? I remember pulling over on the side of the road, on the side of the road, having a blowout diaper and having to stop on the side of the road and clean up this big baby poopy mess. And then, being late and being like, oh my gosh, it's not my baby's fault. That's what babies do. They have blowouts in the car seat, 100%. If you have children, that will most likely happen at some point in your parenting life. I have 5 children. This has happened several times. And what I wasn't recognizing is that I needed to flip that around. I needed to own that. I need to recognize oh snap, I'm a mama. I got kids. That means I gotta leave at least a half hour early to everything. Giving myself, and it may be even an hour, right? Whatever time you notice that you're late, you need to be ready that amount of time plus 15 minutes earlier. And let me tell you, and when I started doing this, it was a game changer. My experience of every event I ever went to was better. Because what was happening before, I was showing up, annoyed at my kids. It was harder for me to like really get the full experience of whatever the event was, whether it was church, whether it was, playing in the playground, play dates, family reunions, whatever, the store. When you give yourself the time for things to come up, you're not feeling so annoyed. You're just like, oh yeah, of course this would happen. I'm a mama. My kid puked. Totally cleaning it up. Got this covered. We're still 15 minutes early. Bam. Maybe we're only exactly on time. But guess what that is? Better than totally late. So there's that. That's one example. Another one for me was I used to super blame my husband for my kids swearing. It is not my husband's fault that my children swear sometimes. It is my children's fault. And so with the whole blame thing, there's a difference between blame and responsibility. So holding people responsible for their actions is totally appropriate. But holding people responsible for how you feel because of those actions is 100% not acceptable. It is not what someone does that makes us feel a certain way. So let's say someone cuts me off. I'm like, blah, whatever. Them cutting me off is their action. Yes, so they can be held accountable for how they drive, right? That's their responsibility. But how I feel about them cutting me off is 100% my responsibility. Okay? So even with like my children swearing, they need to be held responsible for that for sure. Now, does that mean that I don't have a conversation with my husband and be like, hey, listen, these kids are swearing. I don't swear. Maybe you think they're not hearing you and they are. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but could you please clean that up, right? Like, I can totally have that conversation, but recognizing however I feel about that is 100% me. Like, my children swearing, one, isn't my husband's fault. Now, can he maybe have some responsibility in it? Yeah, maybe. Okay. I can have that conversation. Totally fine. But how I feel about that is all on me. All on me. None of that is his at all. And none of that's my kids even. That's all on me. I'm choosing to feel those ways because of thoughts in my head. What I was doing is fully blaming him, which then makes my children not responsible, which is not acceptable. That when we do not hold our children responsible for their actions, do you want to know what happens? We raise children who don't take responsibility for anything. That's not acceptable. In order to raise humans on this wonderful, beautiful planet Earth that are responsible humans, like adding to the society and helping lift it up, we need to hold our children responsible for their actions, all of them, which in this case would mean my child swears, excuse me, young lady, excuse me, young man, not acceptable behavior, whatever the consequences are, right? But for sure, blaming my husband for it, not okay. Some other ways, hold on, I wrote some down. Some other ways that I blame. It could be, I'm like, what is happening here? Okay. I'm late. Oh, here's another thing that I have been known to do, maybe in my past, is blaming the weather for why I don't walk or run, right? Oh, it was bad weather today. It's why I didn't go. Whatever. Like for me specifically, not acceptable. And I have definitely done that. It's not an okay excuse. I even like walking in the rain. What? That's ridiculous. The weather's not the reason I do or I don't exercise. That is a choice that I'm making in the moment. Okay. I got to own that. And here's the deal, right? Like as I blame, it doesn't get me anywhere. That type of thinking doesn't get me anywhere. It doesn't get you anywhere either. You got to flip that stuff around and you got to own it. How can you own it? And here's the part where it gets a little bit tricky is we're like, no, but I was feeling amazing. And then this person did this thing and now I felt terrible. So that's where it can be easy to like point the fingers at like, they're the reason I feel bad because I was feeling fine. And then they did that and now I feel terrible. But here's a correction I want to make. You were feeling fine and then they did that. You had a thought about what they did and that's what made you feel terrible. What they did not make you feel terrible. Okay. Now in deeper scenarios, right? So let's just say if you, maybe you had a husband who cheated on you or left you, right? Or maybe you were abused as a child, any type of abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect. And here you are as an adult and you're still blaming your perpetrator for what? For your emotional where you are right now. It is not your perpetrator's fault, okay? Here's what is your perpetrator's fault. Whatever the thing they did, those actions, 100%, yes, they have responsibility. That's their responsibility, right? So you can hold them responsible for those things, but how you're choosing to feel about it now and what you're making it mean about you is 100% your responsibility. So let's just say, right, and this is really, and actually in both of these situations, right, like whether you were sexually abused, physically abused, emotionally abused, neglect, or you had a significant other cheat, abuse you in any way, right? All of those types of examples, those run very, very deep. And here's the thing that we don't realize is how many times you replayed that crap in your brain over and over and over. Like you are reliving the abuse over and over. You're reliving the cheating over and over in your head. I mean, when you replay that stuff, I know we want to say that's their fault, but that's on you. That's me replaying that in my brain. That's me causing continual torment and torture over and over. Like how many times did I do that to myself, right? They did the act once or however many times they did. Whatever that act, that's what they can be held accountable for. But when you make it mean that you're worthless, that you're not worthy, that you're dirty, that you're never going to be enough, right? When you make it mean all these terrible things about you, that is not your perpetrator. That's you. And let me just tell you, thank goodness. This is why this is so important to be able to distinguish between like blaming our perpetrators or holding them responsible for what they are responsible for and then owning our own. When I replay that stuff in my brain, that is me hurting me. And it's crazy because it's like, why would I want to hurt myself? Why would I want to replay that crap? But it's just like this thing that our brain does. And part of it's we don't realize we're doing it to ourselves. We're like, how dare you? You did this to me. And it's like, wait, that's over. That has happened. Yes, let's hold them responsibility. Let's hold them responsible. Yes, right? So let's just say there was sexual abuse that happened. Yes, speak up. You need to tell someone. Maybe you need to even confront the person. Like do the things that you need to hold that person responsible. Yes, 100%. Your husband cheats on you, call that Mr. out, right? Like do what you need to hold him responsible. Whatever that looks like, you need to do that. But do not make them responsible for your feelings inside. First of all, it's crazy how we want to hand our emotional well-being to the most people we don't want to be in control of it. Like the worst humans, we do not want them to have any control over us. We do not want them to be controlling our emotional well-being. And yet those are the people that we hand it to. What? Just doesn't make any sense. Like, no. So I'm here to correct this for you. Okay. If this happens to be you, if you happen to be a person who has had some childhood trauma, or even adult trauma, right? Maybe you've had some abuse in your adult life, in your last relationship or past relationships. Maybe you're currently in one. Hold the perpetrator responsible for their actions. Hold yourself responsible for what you're making it mean and how you're feeling about it right now. Okay? And I'm not suggesting you need to feel good about it. But what I am suggesting is you don't need to torture and torment yourself for years to come because of what you didn't have control over, because of the abuse that someone else did to you. You can let them keep that, but don't give them your emotional well-being. They've done enough damage as it is. You take that back and you own that yourself. Whenever we're a victim, we are not. Okay, sorry. Whenever we're blaming, we are a victim. Okay? So when we are blaming someone else for how we are feeling, we are not owning our life. We are not even able to move forward and reach our highest potential, which is what I want to help you do. That's the point of my podcast, you guys. The point of my program. This is the reason I coach women. I want to help as many women as I can move from where they have been stuck and help them see their worth, their value, help open up and let them see all of the doors that are actually open and they don't even realize it. I want you to know this about you. There may be some areas in your life that you are stuck because you're blaming. I want you to really work on identifying where is it in my life that I am blaming others and I am being a victim. And when I am a victim, I am not owning my life. I'm not taking responsibility for my life and my part in this. And therefore, it is holding me back. I'm not able to break free of these chains that are holding me down because I'm holding on to blame. And here's the deal. You can't keep the blame and be set free. You have to pick. You have to decide right here and right now, I am not going to be a victim anymore. I am not going to point the finger. I am not going to blame. I'm going to own my life. I'm going to keep those responsible and hold them responsible for their actions. I'm going to hold myself responsible for my actions, for my thoughts, and I'm going to switch this around. And so often, you guys, right, like, and here's another thing. With our thoughts, it can be a little bit tricky, right? Because as much as, yes, we are in charge of our thoughts, but there are thoughts that just come through our brain that if we blame ourselves for having them, it can cause a lot of trouble. And so in this situation, what I want to offer is when you have a thought come through your head and it makes you feel like really crappy and you want to blame yourself or someone else for the reason that thought is there, what I want you to do is to choose not to blame anyone. I want you to not make that thought a big deal and just let it go. It just came in, you noticed it, but do not give that thought another chance. Don't give it an opportunity to fester in your mind. Let it come in and let it go. You don't need to blame yourself. You don't need to blame anyone for that. You can just, again, it comes in, let it go. And for me, what I do sometimes when thoughts come through my head that are not appropriate, not thoughts that I want to be having, I'm just like, I don't recognize that as me, okay? Like, you're not your thoughts. You're going to have thoughts that come through your head and you're going to want to blame yourself for being a terrible person for having this thought. You're not a terrible person for having the thought. Now, what you choose to do with the thought, that is your choice. You can choose to just let it go and make it mean nothing about you. You can choose to ponder on it. You can choose to make it mean everything about you. And you can choose to allow that to fester and drag you down. I suggest you do not make it about you at all. I'm a human brain. That was a thought. I'm out. I don't got room for you in this brain. You just let it go. All right. So, yeah, you guys, this is my jam. This is what I do. I'm a life coach and I love working with women. And before we go there, let's do this. Let's talk about the essential oils for blaming others and blaming self. So for blaming others, it would be ginger, spikenard, cardamom, vetiver, forgive, HD clear, and neroli. My favorite out of those are neroli, forgive, cardamom, and ginger. For blaming yourself, okay? So this is if you're struggling with blaming yourself for things. bergamot, clove, and copaiba. I love bergamot. Like, I really love it. I put it over my heart for sure. But also my favorite diffuser blend is to do 1 drop of frankincense, about 3 to 5 drops of bergamot, and 3 to 5 drops of balance in the diffuser. It smells so good. So there you go. Those are the essential oils that you would use. The essential oils that I use is doTERRA essential oils. Those are the essential oils that I recommend. Those are the essential oils that I use in my program. And in fact, when you sign up for my program, you get your own essential oils and supplements. We really work to clean you up from the inside out. And what I wanted to let you know was that I do say, call me and let's see if we're a good fit. And the reason I do that is like, I am kind of old school in that way. Like, I think it's really important to get on the phone with each other, have a conversation, and to really decide if we're a good fit or not. And so I could see how on your side, there could be a little hesitation. Like, I don't know, like I'm going to get on the phone with her, but this is what I want to tell you. What's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that happen? You don't buy my program? That's okay. Like, I'm not going to be mad at you if you don't buy my program. Totally fine. Like, it's better for you to call me and let's talk about it. There's only 2 reasons you wouldn't buy my program. One is that if it's just financially not possible for you. Okay. That's not a big deal. Totally fine. Or if we're not a good fit. Like, if I don't think I can help you, I'm sorry, my eye is like spazzing out. If I don't think I can help you, I'm not going to take your money. I'm going to be like, listen, I don't think this is for you. I'll be honest. Like, I want you to get the results you're looking for. I built this program to give results for you, for the people who are ready, for the women who are ready to make the change. But it is true, like, to be coached, you need to be in a certain headspace. You have to be willing to be wrong. You have to be willing you have to have a desire to change, to want to create a better life for yourself, to see things. You have to be open to seeing things differently than how you've seen them. Because when we think the same thoughts and make the same decisions, that's how we get the same life over and over. And what I teach you is how to think differently, how to take different actions so you can create a more amazing life than what you already have. So those are the only 2 reasons. And you know what? So often we're like, oh my gosh, we spend $6,000 on a photographer for our wedding, $6,000 for a cake, $6,000 for a wedding dress, right? Like, we'll easily drop money like that. And it might be a little painful, but we're like, yeah, we do it. Why? Because we want the results they're going to get us. We want that wedding dress. That's why we buy it. We want that cake. That's why we buy it. That wedding cake. We want that photographer because she does freaking amazing work. So we're willing to drop that money for it. We want a new kitchen, so we dropped $25,000 on it, 100%. And every time we walk into that kitchen, we love that kitchen. We're so glad that we spent our money on that. My life coaching is similar. Like, yeah, I have specifically priced it so that you are stretching yourself to enroll in my program. And this is on purpose because I know that when you invest in you in a way that is a sacrifice for you, you're going to show up for you more than you have in your past. You're going to do the work because you made an investment. And so this is done on purpose and very strategically for your benefit. Okay? I want you to understand that. So call me. Don't be afraid. Let's talk on the phone. Let's see if we're a good fit. And if we are, I will get you set up. And we use essential oils, doTERRA essential oils, and you get the books that you need, and we have a workbook. And it's one-on-one coaching. It's really amazing. And if you're ready to do the work, to make the investment, let's chat and see if we're a good fit. Have an amazing day. Remember, blame is a waste of your time. It isn't getting you anywhere. No point in playing the blame game. Have an amazing day, my friends. Own it. Own it, sister. Have an amazing day. Give me a call. My number's below. Have a good one.